What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, tonight, Garrett Williams. I'm joined tonight by my one usual co-host, Kyle Henning. How we doing tonight, Kyle?
Doing well. Been a decent week. Got to watch a bunch of preseason all-22 game film this week, so that was different. You don't normally, spend a whole bunch of time watching a bunch of all-22, but I had stuff I wanted to look at. I know, watched some. I'm sure Charles did.
Yeah. So we got a lot coming to you. And then obviously, like Kyle just alluded to, we've joined by our good friend Charles Goldman from AtoZ Sports. How you doing tonight, Charles?
Not bad, gentlemen. Not bad. Stuffed from some pizza. We had to beat our friend Ian Book.
Charles declared a challenge to Ian Book today because Patrick Mahomes came out and said that they had a pizza party on the last day of camp, which today was the last day of camp. And according to Patrick Mahomes, Ian Book had 9 slices of pizza. 9.
Well,
so we don't know what type of pizza this was.
AtoZ, I believe it was reported, which is a local KC spot.
Probably fine.
Yeah. I don't know if it was that because he's trying to keep it on the hush hush. I don't know. But
the Only Weird Games crew alluded to it being AtoZ. So
could have been Domino's, maybe Pizza Hut. Who knows? Who knows?
But anyhow, I guess Ian Book they do it a couple times during camp. There's like a little bonding type of thing that they do. They sneak off from the St. Joseph campus. They go and get their pizza party on. And I guess the first time they went, Ian had ordered a pizza and then had to go or do something. And the offensive line ate his pizza. He came back, he got a slice, and he was kind of pissed. He was like, my pizza's gone. What's going on? So this time around, he was like, I'm eating this whole thing before anyone has a chance to take my pizza. And he ate 9 slices, according to Pat. And I was like, that's it's a respectable amount. It's a good amount of pizza. It's not, I didn't intend to shame him. I think some people thought my tweet was 9 pieces of pizza. This guy's a chunker or something. But no, I certainly didn't intend that. And I sought to challenge him a little bit today. I went, there's a pizza truck that came to our apartment complex just by happenstance, happened to be today on this glorious pizza Thursday, whatever's going on, right? And I ordered a couple pizzas for myself and my wife, and they messed up one of our pizzas when they were taking it out, so they gave us an extra pizza. And suddenly I'm I got nearly 20 slices of pizza that are probably up for grabs. So I'm gotta see how many I can eat here. Can I beat Ian Book? And I'll tell you what, I ate 10 slices of pizza tonight. I beat him one by one slice. I beat him by one slice, and I didn't pass out before the show. So I feel like
I've accomplished greatly.
I've accomplished something great today. And you know what? I feel like my tweet's going to help this kid get himself a pizza endorsement. So Ian, if you want to send me a little. Send me a little cut of the check, well, we can work something out. My DMs
you might need all that check. I ain't gonna lie to you, but we're big Ian Book fans on this show, ain't that right, Kyle? Kyle loves him. He's a Notre Dame guy, so he loves him. We love Ian Book here, but yeah, Charles took him down. That's
so someone commented on that tweet. That read through the comments because there are some pretty funny ones. But someone was like he ate as many slices of pizza as years he spent in college. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Look, I'm very happy that Ian is getting a little shine. It's good. I'm happy for him. He's a nice guy by all accounts. Just don't ask him to throw the ball in pressure situations. Just don't do that.
At training camp, I don't think he did throw the ball too frequently.
I don't think he did. So you're good. He's all good there.
He liked to take off and run, man. That was my big observation of him when I was at camp.
Yeah, trust me.
But hey, a couple of decent runs, nothing to be ashamed of.
Nothing to be ashamed of, good outing at St. Joe for everybody, really.
But I missed him shifting positions on the depth chart.
Already, that one's already stacked. But it was good. It was a good training camp this year, as like I alluded to. Training camp wrapped up today in St. Joe's. Obviously, Charles was out there at camp for a couple of those days, and a lot of those days actually. You were out there for a while, huh?
Yeah, I was out there 8 days, 7 days, 8 days, something like that. Not nearly as many as the entire Chiefs beat, who are tremendous at what they do. They're out there literally practically every day. And you know, some of the TV stations, they rotate people. The TV stations will rotate their guys because they have enough staff to do that. But like the Pete Sweeneys, the Matt Derricks, the Nate Taylors, they're out there every single day. Adam Teicher out there every single day. Shout out to Adam on his last training camp before he rushes into retirement. He seemed a little ready to get out of there. He said he spent a whole year of his life in St. Joseph, which is crazy to think about. But I mean, he's been covering the team through like 3-4 regimes now. So he's
long time.
He's seen a lot. He's seen a lot.
Longer than Garrett's been alive. That's how long.
Yep, that's actually probably true.
No, it's not probably. It is true. I think it's like 27 years right now.
That clears me. Yeah. So tonight we are going to discuss some of our closing camp thoughts and, of course, talk pretty in-depthly about the first preseason game, which typically is one of the more telling games of the three. I feel like that's where you start to. That's the first preseason game is always where you really see guys that are probably going to make the roster and what their treatment is, a la Kingsley Suamataia and a couple other guys, Xavier Worthy. They just only get a couple snaps and you're gone, and that's all you need to see. And it's also a big game for evaluating some guys that you really want to see more in. And
6 snaps is what the starters play.
Yep. And it's not going to be a whole lot more this upcoming one. Maybe 12. Maybe like 12.
What, you don't believe Andy Reid that they're going to play well into the first half?
A full half. What are you talking about? Who's believing that stuff? Come on. So yeah, we're gonna break it down. Some of the guys we really liked, some of the guys who maybe didn't have as great of days, and some of the weird and crazy stuff that went on, including the new kickoff rule, which was. We sure found out about it, huh? We sure did.
They still don't know what the hell's going on with the new kickoff rule. So
nothing like just having to have them clarify a rule after week 1, because
nothing like having a half-baked rule put into a league that's not even fully ironed out yet, and they don't have all
the Chiefs to figure that one out. So we've got all that for you tonight. Where do you guys want to start?
Well, I guess we should probably get the silliness out of the way first with what we just talked about there briefly, so we can actually have like real conversation. First of all, catch the ball is part A of the kickoff rules that we should just go ahead and get out of the way.
I guess, I guess you have to. Yeah.
Well, you have to because the NFL forgot to put like actually all of the rule in the rule book before they implemented the rule, because when the ball hits in the end zone outside of the strike zone that they have to kick it in, the ball is now magically not dead if it bounces back into the field of play. Which
and the old kickoff rule they had changed so that literally as soon as the ball touched the end zone, it was dead. Yeah, like it didn't even matter. So
which makes sense because the whole goal for this is to make them kick it into not the end zone.
And also, it's like crazy how many times ever you're going to have a kick that bounces in the end zone and then bounces backwards. It's
I think now you might have it a lot.
Yeah, they might go
trying to put backspin
on that thing for real. Yeah.
For those of you who NFL mandates that's not the case anymore now that it's already
I mean, I'm sure it'll get.
Apparently, there are discussions that are happening right now about whether or not they should just make it if it hits in the end zone.
I mean,
I
guess also now everybody else knows that you have to catch it. So
So Dave Tobe said today, when asked about, because he's on the competition committee, by the way, for these kickoff rules. He was asked about it, and I thought it was very telling that he said, the adjudication of the rule is one thing we really need to work on. Good. He's like, the officials understanding the rule is a big thing for us that we really want to make sure is better, clarifying what the actual rules are. So in other words, they still haven't fully fledged this thing out yet, and now they have 2 games left of everybody until it actually matters. So hopefully they get this screwed in all the way soon.
Hopefully. I didn't think it was too pretty just in general for the Chiefs. Like even the return coverage team. I thought that they kind of approached it, and Tobe said it himself. He said they were too aggressive with it, and that they've got to treat it a little bit differently. And I think part of that was just honestly like, this is the first time we're doing it. We want to like get after it, and I think that they were probably just a little too overeager there. I think we'll get a better showing from them, this week. But it just wasn't good overall. I thought I think the only good like kick off too that we had was the one that Luis Zamet did, which I found interesting.
Where it like skipped into the end zone after it hit the strike zone, and then the dude like picked it up. Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned the return thing first, because honestly, their biggest issue was one of their vets on the special teams on that return play. Leo Chenal overran that. Actually, didn't just overran it. He flat out didn't break down and whiffed and then overran the play. And you can't do that on that kind of a kick return, because then they're out the back. Then everybody decided to not wrap up while they tackled, and that's how the dude got an extra 25 or 30 yards.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because the play very much so, I feel like, you have to, there has to be like a good balance of aggression and patience, because if you overrun it, you're putting yourself out of position and there's no one left behind you to, make the play, right? But if you wait around, you're going to end up, you're going to have to shed blocks, right? Which is also a hard skill to accomplish.
The more we see it, the more it's just like it is a really interesting play. And like you said, like if you kind of hold back and wait, almost reminds me of the Hail Mary a couple years ago. If you guys remember that, Tyreek Hill at the end of the half versus the Cowboys, and he had like 3 blockers and they were all just kind of hesitating. And then, I mean, all it takes, like, especially if you're not moving at high speeds, like you just get a couple arms on you and someone can just run past you. So there is a weird, you got to be aggressive and try to close in early, but also have to have a contain and a back line and the whole thing. So that's almost why I feel like having a guy like a Luis Zamet or Justin Reed as your kickoff guy. I mean, Harrison Butker on that first
he was so lucky that the turf monster got that guy, or he was going to get creamed, man.
And to credit to Harrison Butker, that's a tough situation to be in. But it's like he waited, he kind of hesitated, and then he kind of wasn't really going to have the greatest of angle of trying to tackle him. And it's just you just don't want your kicker to be in that situation.
It reminds me of rush lane discipline. And if you don't maintain your rush lane, and now usually when you're talking about rush lanes, you're talking about 4 guys having to maintain their rush lanes, right? Traditionally speaking, when a defensive line is rushing and they're maintaining their lanes, you got 4 guys that got to worry about it. This kickoff requires 10 dudes to maintain their rush lanes.
Yeah,
you can't.
Well, and what's interesting about that is it's one of the reasons why I think like you're going to see the Chiefs keep like 6 linebackers this year, because they're going to need them just for the special teams play, because those are the guys who are adept at being able to keep those rush lanes.
Can I interest you in 5 linebackers and a safety that looks like a linebacker sometimes?
I'm telling you, man, 6 linebackers is happening.
Yeah, I think why not both? Why not both, actually? So that the special teams linebacker. The special teams after the first performance, there's some things to work on, obviously, like everybody around the league's gonna have, but definitely I'm pretty ecstatic about the potential that this new kickoff has. I mean, we might have some silly situations that kind of bite it. Like if that happened in a real game, that safety would have been pissed, would have been so upset, and then it'd be like this stupid rule. But hopefully by the time the season actually kicks off and we get 2 more weeks of preseason where it's more random stuff like this can kind of hopefully get ironed out, then it might end up working out well. Who knows? So with that, moving on to the kind of the game itself, I guess we can kind of just like I said at the start, the starters 6 snaps, which on the first snap of the game passed to Hollywood Brown, who ended up going down and injuring his shoulder, which was not great. Charles, you might know the I forget the technical. It was like a cardiovascular
sternoclavicular.
Okay.
Sternoclavicular
Clavicular. I could not get the
joint injury.
Yeah,
and it's the posterior kind, which is basically your
outside.
It's your sternum, where your sternum meets kind of your chest here, and that joint, and the bone gets pushed into your chest cavity, your sternum area, right there.
Indeed, real bad.
And the worry and the fear. I mean, it can be a life-threatening injury because it can puncture some like major organs. It can puncture lungs. It can hit some of your big veins that you have going through that area, and it can cause some serious problems. And I mean, how lucky are the Chiefs that both their players that they've had suffer those injuries did not have any serious complications? Because
Tyreek Hill suffered the same injury, like 4 or 5 years ago in Jacksonville?
2019 in Jacksonville. Yeah, a crazy coincidence. I saw. How about this? Chiefs, he posted a video when it happened to Hill in Jacksonville. They literally, like, right after the injury, they cut to a clip of Hollywood Brown scoring like his first touchdown or something for the
Ravens. That is
crazy coincidence.
Yeah, that is some crazy stuff.
So
that was obviously a huge misfortune on the first play. Luckily for Hollywood, it seems like Charles said, nothing super major injury. The expected belief he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks was the timeline that was given by most people, which would mean he would miss probably the first game or two of the season, which is unfortunate because playing Baltimore week 1, it would have been a cool revenge game for him.
Yeah.
But, luckily long-term, he should be good to go for the rest of the season, which is when we'll really need him. But I think that definitely led to Andy getting a little gun shy with the starters and being like, all right, listen, we don't need anything else crazy happening out here. We'll get down the field, kick a field goal, and that's it.
Well, they didn't want to kick the field goal. Your most dependable wide receiver last year decided to drop a pass he probably should have caught on third down.
Yeah, it just needed to work back to the ball a little bit more. It was, preseason jitters.
Wasn't a great throw either by Patrick. I'm not lying.
Yeah,
it was a little low.
Yeah. But Pat could have stepped up in the pocket and probably, instead of escaping to his right, and probably would have had a better shot at making a play there. But I think he got a little bit gun shy because he saw, I think one of the rushers, I think it was the one who was coming on the right side. It looked like he was coming inside, but Juwan actually really kind of stopped that, and then he kind of cut out to the right side there, and he had to throw around a defender, which made it a little bit of a tougher grab for Rice. So a lot of things happening on that play. Probably one you want back. Definitely one that they probably discussed in the the meeting rooms at length. But I thought that the first team offense looked solid. I think that you already kind of saw what they're hoping to do. I mean, the first play was dialed up as a shot play to Xavier Worthy, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
They roll into cover one. And, they blitz and roll into cover one, and boom!
On
all of a sudden,
first play of the preseason, they blitz.
That is wild. That is a wild move. Yeah.
I mean, Doug Peterson knows Andy's tendencies. So I feel like
come on, man. Let's do this thing. Let's cut to the chase here. Let's just get into it.
Plus, he wanted this win pretty badly because you can't beat him in the regular season.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Has a pretty bad record. Yeah. Offense, the first team offense, very short-lived. Like I mentioned earlier.
Sorry, even in that same short-livedness, they were even more short-lived of actual functionable snaps if you're trying to watch tape of certain guys.
Yeah, you're not really getting much out of what the first team was really. Yeah.
They only gave Kingsley 2 real snaps as he.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was going to mention is Kingsley got the vet treatment, only 6 snaps, and he was off. So obviously Wanya Morris was out for the game, so he didn't get any play. But obviously the Chiefs are very set, I think, on Kingsley being the left tackle going forward. So that's good to see. Everybody else looked fine, and then it was just into the second team with Carson Wentz and the boys.
That did not look fun.
Yeah, the second team offensive line was getting kind of
that was a big problem
by the first team defensive line for the Jaguars. So
it's always tough, when you're still got the first team out there.
Yeah, the two rookies, Norzad and Hansen, they were a little on that first drive, a little gun shy, I think.
Carson Wentz dodged 5 guys to then get sacked by the 5th guy again.
I mean, just already playing Carson Wentz football. This is exactly what you expect. It's Carson Wentz football. But yeah,
I'm intrigued to see if this week they give him a couple snaps with the first team offensive line.
Andy
I think that'll
was asked
happen.
about that, and he said maybe.
He said
maybe.
I think
they should.
Maybe.
I think it just depends on.
Sake, for Christ.
I just think it depends on how that first team offensive line looks with Lucas at right tackle, but we'll see.
Yeah, because
Lucas at right tackle.
Yeah, so obviously the whole second team O-line didn't look great. Lucas Niang, in my opinion, looked very ungreat. I mentioned this pre-show. He has one of the worst, ugliest pass sets I've ever seen in my life. He is just, I mean, it gets the job done sometimes, but man, I do not want to have to rely on him for any favorable snaps. And obviously Wanye will be the swing tackle. So he'd be the third tackle off the bench, essentially. Lucas Niang would be. So hopefully, we'll see what they do. He'll be starting in place of Jawan Taylor on the second preseason game because Jawan Taylor is still banged up. So we'll really see a better helping of Lucas Niang. But I was not thrilled about the entire second team O-line, but especially Lucas Niang. I didn't like it. I didn't like that very much, and I think Donovan Smith should be on speed dial for Brett Beach. I'm just saying.
I would not spend a dime on Donovan Smith.
Yeah, I just don't think Don's going to play on the right side, and right now that's probably where they need help. It's unfortunate that Wanye's been a little banged up this training camp because I think he had kind of a big opportunity to really cement himself as that third guy, and I don't think he's there yet. I mean, Andy Heck spoke this week and was like, he mentioned Wanye and Lucas in the same sentence, like they're competing for that job. So I'm thinking now, I mean, Lucas has got a huge opportunity in front of him because if he looks good in this preseason game, maybe he takes a little step forward in that battle and, suddenly Wanye is a little further down the food chain there. But, it'll just be interesting to kind of see, whether or not he can rise to the occasion because, it's not too long ago that he was a third round draft pick and he's had some injury struggles through his career. As when he was drafted, he had the hip injury that he was still getting over from college. And then he had the major knee injury in 2021. So, I mean, he's really working his way back from 2 major injuries to just have an opportunity to stay in the league at this point, right? So I'm excited to see what he can do this weekend with the starters.
My concerns with Lucas, one, the injury he suffered in college was a hip injury and a nasty one, and they screwed it up when they tried to fix it the first time. If I remember reading a giant article about that, that somebody put out, they weren't too happy with TCU med staff on that one. And then he got hurt again in the Bengals game. The problem that I have the most when I was watching the film from this preseason game is Garrett mentioned it's ugly looking, and I don't really care how it looks as long as it works. But when he loses horribly. It's not like, I lost. Like, it's been mentioned sometimes losing slow is still basically winning for slowly. An offensive lineman. And that's a lot of the times true. He's losing fast to dudes that aren't probably making the Jags roster at points during that preseason game. And that's where I get a little concerned. Like I mentioned it pre-show, there's a snap down by the goal line with Olodokun in at quarterback, and he just gets torched and gets Chris smoked. Gresh got rid of the ball, but he gets absolutely clobbered. And it's just, if you're going to lose, you have to at least slow them down. And if you're not going to slow them down, we can't have you out there. So you can set ugly and you can have bad other things, but you can't get your quarterback killed, especially not by some second and third and fourth string guys.
Yeah, I honestly thought, and we spoke about this before the show, I thought that he was one of the best looking interior offensive linemen the Chiefs had during camp. They had a whole day or two where they played him at left guard, and like basically like you look at like all of the best snaps of that practice session, all the highlight plays of Pat throwing touchdowns and stuff like that, and like he did good things there. I think he's one of those guys who can do a lot better in a phone booth than when he's on the island on the right side.
Yeah,
and you know, there are going to be some times where he's not on an island on the right side, right? They'll have you know, tight end over there or something.
Yeah,
you don't need chip and whatnot. But yeah, I think, you know, obviously you want to see more from him than you saw in that first preseason game, and you know, having an opportunity to step up and play with the starters rather than playing into the third and fourth quarter with a Chris Oladagun. I feel like it, like I said earlier, it's a rise to the occasion situation, right?
Yeah.
You either, you know, rise to it or you flounder, and you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt when it comes to roster cuts or whatnot.
Yeah, I've still got a little bit of faith in him, and like I said, he's still got some time to get everything cleaned up. But like I said, it being in like this is like his fourth year now, I think. You would just like to see a little more development. You know, like I said, the injuries have slowed things down, but just like to see a little more development there. In the phone booth, inside, I might not be mad about it though. Inside, put him at guard, I might not be too mad. But yeah, on the island, it's just where it gets a little ugly. So sticking on the offense, the other probably notable position group, because tight ends, I don't think there's really a whole lot. Well, maybe a little bit, but wide receiver.
Wiley got welcomed to the NFL. That happened.
Yeah, it sure did. But wide receiver, I think, is probably the bigger conversation, with a lot of guys on that outside looking in, and who knows how many receivers they end up keeping. I have them keeping 7 in my 53-man prediction, but you know, there's some guys that showed up and looked pretty well in this preseason. Justin Ross had some really good snaps, really good reps. Sky Moore was out there. He was out there.
He filled in for Hollywood, man. First guy off the bench.
So I guess so. I mean, Justin Watson was playing the game, so that's the thing about that. But
then he would have been the second guy off the bench.
He might have been the second, right? He was the second guy off the bench. You're right.
I think right now you can realistically lock 5 guys in at the wide receiver position for Kansas City, and one of them Sky Moore. I'm just gonna go out and say it. Chiefs fans aren't gonna like it for whatever reason. They hate this guy.
The problem is that I unfortunately kind of agree, and that's the problem, because
look, I don't think it is a problem.
It's quite funny.
I think people are mad because he's a second-round pick and he's not ever going to be a 1,000-yard receiver.
Narrative.
I think he's a good player. I think he's going to do more good things for you than he is bad things over the life of the time he's with the team. And you know, we're going to look back on it, and should he have been a second-round draft pick? Maybe not. But like, this is a guy who is in his second year of professional football after playing for, what was it, Western Michigan? Is that the team he was at?
Yeah,
Western Michigan. So like he's I think for what he's been so far, what he still can be, I think he's fine. I think the Chiefs trust him to an extent. I think Pat trusts him to an extent. And that's going to get him on the roster this year. The fact that he's still got 2 years left on his contract, young, fairly cheap. He's 23 years old, right? Like, yep. I think he's going to be fine. The other guys, obviously, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Justin Watson, right? So those are the 5 that I think you can lock in today and say are making the team.
That's very interesting.
And here's the thing. With Hollywood Brown getting hurt, all right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you've got a little bit of a different situation. Maybe before you were thinking, okay, we can get by with 6 guys if we find the right 6 guys. I don't think that's happening now. I think they're going to carry 7.
I think so.
But there's going to be a little bit of a roster crunch because Hollywood Brown not being available for that week 1 game. Dave Tope said it this week. He said, we're probably going to take Xavier Worthy off of punts now. So all of a sudden, now you've got a situation where you're not just looking at the wide receiver position, you're also looking at special teams. All right. And I know we can't put a whole lot. I know we can't put a whole lot of stock into the depth chart, right? but like, go look at the depth chart. Look who's your number one punt returner.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Look who's your number one kick returner. All right. You got Nico Remigio as your number one kick returner. All right.
Yeah.
So are you cutting your number one kick returner? I don't think so. Right.
Yeah. I've had Nico as a lock to make this roster for all camp, basically. Yeah.
So let's say Nico is a lock to make the roster. Now you got 6 wide receivers as locks to make the roster. Who are you having as your 7th wide receiver? Are you going to have
the other guy's lock and has been?
Are you have Justin Ross?
I think there's one other lock on this roster.
There's been a lock at wide receiver since he signed back with the team again this year. It's just people don't like him for the same reason they don't like Sky Moore. We love narratives, and we love to listen to the BS that people spew. And if you want any proof, go look at the clip of Xavier Worthy running the route and then Sky Moore torching Trent McDuffie and Trent McDuffie catching up on a terribly thrown ball, and look at the commentary difference on the same clip about those 2 wide receivers. Arrowhead Live has brought it up. Jason Dunn and Chief Concerns has now talked about it. I listened to them this morning. Look, guys, some of you may not want to hear this, and I'm sorry, but McCole Hardman is better than all of you think. And I'm saying all of you to all of you who have hated on him every second of every snap that you can since he got here because he's not Tyreek Hill. Well, do you know why he's not Tyreek Hill? Because nobody is. And do you know why he was forced to be into that Tyreek Hill role? Because Tyreek made poor choices. So if we're going to blame people for certain things, let's hold the proper people accountable.
Thanks, Tyreek. Yeah.
You're right.
Sky Moore is much better than people give him credit for. Mecole Hardman is on this roster.
Yeah, Mecole Hardman's going to make it. I think he's going to make it. Even with the special teams whoopsies, like that was more on Deneric Prince than it was on him.
Hey, how did Mecole make the Pro Bowl his rookie year? Anybody remember what he made the Pro Bowl as his rookie year? Anybody?
Return specialist.
Jalen Ramsey brought that up, correct? Remember that?
Yeah.
He did. Yeah. So my thing with the receivers, and like Kyle had mentioned, I've had 5 receivers as a lock basically all of camp, and that was Rasheed, Hollywood, Xavier, Mecole, and Justin Watson. So then, Nico also I feel like is a lock. That's what I'm saying. Kick return 1, I feel like he's been talked about enough, so that's 6.
I just think this receiver room set, and Justin Ross is on the outside looking in, and people are mad.
Yeah, but that's where I think you might have a mistake. That's where you might have a mistake.
I think that it would be great if Justin Ross could make this roster. I love him as a player. I think he's going to be a really good player. I just don't think for what the Chiefs need right now, I don't think he's going to make the 53. I just don't think he is. If he were a better player on special teams as a return specialist or because when you're a 5, 6, or 7 wide receiver, you have to play and be good at special teams, be valuable at special teams.
On this roster for years solely as a special teamer. He was wide receiver solely for special teams.
If you can excel in that role, you have a spot on this team. And people are going to be like, well, the red zone touchdowns and the crazy sideline grabs, and I point to the fact that is all happening for the most part with Carson Wentz and the second team offense. You know who's not throwing him those balls on the sideline? Patrick Mahomes. Because the way the first team offense really operates, they're looking for separation and receivers finding space. And that's just not what Justin Ross does. He's not a burner, and he's not a guy who typically finds the open space in the field and creates that separation.
Because he can't separate. He can't separate.
But like, I mean, the highlight plays are great. There's no denying that.
Oh, he's talented. Don't get that twisted.
The only way I see him making the team right now is if the team gets like a crazy trade offer for another player that they already kind of had as like someone they wanted to make the team, and they're like, wait a second, we can't turn down this offer. Or if someone else gets hurt, which God forbid, let's hope that does not happen.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. But man, I just think it's going to be really, really tough for him to make it. I would love to see him get a chance with the first team offense during the preseason. I'd love to see them trot him out there with the starters this week. That would be a really cool opportunity for him to kind of prove himself a little bit. And like, you know, maybe something different happens. I think like last year he might have lost a little bit of goodwill with the stuff that happened off field, and then the fact that like they needed receivers to step up last year with that offense.
Yeah.
He had opportunities to.
That's what I was going to say is they did give him some play last year in the regular season, and he really didn't step up super big to the opportunity. And, you know, it was his first full year, you could argue, and, you know, it's a learning curve. But,
you know,
what it comes down to
games played. He had 10 games played last year.
It's a lot of opportunities.
He had 6 catches for 53 yards, guys.
Yeah, so that's
the whole season over 10 games. And
like we kind of alluded to, and Charles alluded to, it's, you know, he's not a big separator, you know. And the thing about the offense, the Chiefs offense, since we've seen Patrick Mahomes here, is they really just haven't used like a jump ball guy. Like they haven't really desired one. They haven't used one super. I mean, I
will say they use them in one point of the field. They use them in the red zone.
They do
sometimes.
They do. But and Jody Fortson got some good play there. Obviously, Sammy Watkins a couple years ago.
And this is
what position did Jody Fortson play?
Tight end.
Well, wide receiver and then tight end.
This was an observation I had one of my first days at camp this year. So it was the day that Justin Ross was working with the first team offense. They were doing red zone work. He had like a couple really nice, like right corner, like fade one-on-one touchdowns, right? You know who they trotted out and had running those same routes? Jared Wiley.
Jared Wiley?
Jared Wiley.
Tight end.
And that has been a trend through the rest of camp is Jared Wiley has gotten a lot of red zone work and end zone work. And like I said, that was kind of what Justin Ross needed to carve out to be his thing. And if they also have Jared Wiley, who is a higher draft pick, who they have they can actually utilize a lot more. You're right. Like it does make sense that would be more of the option they would lean towards in the red zone. And there's not much of a role for Justin Ross down the field. You know, he's just like, he's not a burner. They don't use a contested catch guy like that. Rashee Rice is the closest they've had to that. And he's not that. So
and by the way, Ross had 11 targets on those 6 catches, so he's just barely 50% of his targets or catches. Yeah, I'm good.
That's why for me, wide receiver 7, it comes down to basically Sky Moore or Justin Ross. And, you know, like we've
play special teams.
Yep, special teams. And just, you know, as much as I kind of want to see them move on from Sky Moore, I also just don't think logically they do. Just because, like I said, 2nd round pick, they are obviously super high on him. He's been on your team for 2 years. He's caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like
that's he creates separation. He does the things that they want receivers to do. People may not like it. It may not look as pretty as it does when Tyreek does it, or when Rashee does it, or when Xavier, or when some of these other receivers do it. But he creates separation. The thing he's having to learn is how to finish that portion after you create the separation.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about where he played his college ball, the learning curve, the upgrades, and also they asked a ton of wide receivers that were not ready for that last year, and it killed several of them. Ask Kadarius Toney. Ask Sky Moore. By the way, Kadarius Toney is a person who's not going to make this roster.
He's pretty much long gone, I feel like, at this point. By the way, the coaches are talking about him in comparison to every other receiver.
Like, this is the thing when it comes down to it. Dave Toub gets to pick that like last 7 or 8 guy, that bottom portion of this roster that plays special teams.
He says he doesn't. He says he doesn't. He said right to my face, I know you guys think that I have a lot of control over the roster, but I really don't.
Yes, and Andy said he's playing the starters well into the first half, near halftime, and we know that ain't happening either.
Chiefs are great at line. I tell you what, Brett Beach, Andy,
everybody but their wide receivers coach.
Before we move off the wide receivers, let me just get something out here.
Do it.
Ross has a really big opportunity this weekend, and not just in Kansas City, because the Detroit Lions, they are not a very good team at the wide receiver position this year. It might be their weakest spot on the roster. So if you have a big game from Justin Ross, Chiefs fans are going to be like, yeah, we got to keep him. I can tell you the Chiefs front office is going to be like, calling up Detroit and saying to Brad Holmes, hey, you guys, you got a 4th round draft pick that you want to send us for this guy right here?
4th might be a little steep, but yeah.
Hey,
you never know.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Hey, listen, the Chiefs, the
4th, 5th round draft pick, you would take it. You take it. You'd probably take a 6th round pick.
4th, 5th sounds like another corner or another safety, or
edge rusher. They might have a surplus at edge. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs last year before the final cut down, they traded Amir Smith-Marset for I think a 7th. So I mean, it is possible. I mean, the Vikings have had some injuries at wide receiver. Who knows? They might be a team.
Trade Ian Book to the Vikings.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
JJ McCarthy's knee's gone.
They got good pizza in Minnesota. I don't know.
And that's the thing. There are definitely some teams that Justin Ross would make the roster, which is why if you cut him and he goes through waiver, is he even going through waivers? Is he invested?
Yeah, he's not vested. I think you got to be 4 years.
So if he goes through waivers, I almost certainly would guess that he would get claimed, which is probably why Chiefs are going to want to trade him, if anything, for at least like a 7th round, 6th round pick swap, like we've seen happen a couple of times, just to get something out of him, because
and that leaves you the ability to still put, and this is where I think Charles made a point that we haven't really talked about yet with the vested veteran thing that Garrett just mentioned. You're going to have some vets around this roster that likely walk to the practice squad to be those game day elevations. Remind me, Montrell Washington is old enough for that, correct? I thought he was.
I don't think he is. He hasn't played long enough.
Yeah, he might not be.
That would have been one I would have liked to see.
He's another guy too, though. He's a former 5th round pick. Like, he's another guy. If he has a big game against the Lions, I could see them calling up about him. Because they're having that type. I mean, like they're like too deep at the wide receiver position. They need like a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 type. And I think Washington has shown in Chiefs camp that he's good enough. He's good enough to be that. He can be a guy who plays special teams for him, and he can be kind of a deep ball type of threat. So, I mean, that's a guy who you could potentially flip too.
Get on the phones, Brett. Get on the phones.
Last two things on the offensive side, because we've done 45 minutes just on the offensive side of the football at this point. Carson Steele is on this roster, yes?
Yes. Yeah, I'd say so.
We're all on the same page on that one.
Yeah, Carson Steele definitely ran his way to a roster.
I will say this: Deneric better be careful, because Andy does not often mention players by number in a not so nice situation, and he was not all that thrilled with the special teams issue that took place with that kickoff. Because people were killing McCole again for something he didn't do again when he was trying to cover for Deneric Prince, who did not catch the football and then created that whole situation. Then he did not run well. I know it's the second string offensive line.
That's the more notable thing.
He didn't run well.
I will say what he did do well, what Prince did do well, he caught the ball well. He had a really nice Texas route, which that's refreshing, because the Chiefs haven't really done a good job throwing to the backs lately. So that's nice. But I also think that's an area where Steele is competitive too. We saw that great catch in practice the other day.
He can catch. Carson Steele has hands.
He can definitely catch too. And I think the other thing that was beneficial, he had 1 snap in pass protection. He graded out as the team's highest graded. I think among the guys who got some work with the starters, he was the highest graded. I think Keontae Ingram was better graded later, but I think that's a positive sign, because coming into this, he literally told us 5 times in his press conference that he was looking forward to, needed to improve at, and wanted to do better at pass protection. And he seems to have improved there. So that's a way you can make get onto the roster.
I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because I brought up a couple weeks ago Isaiah Pacheco, when that clip came out of him with Reese Zammit, and him being that leader and being that dude to teach about the pass block. Hey, I got to do this better. You can get better here. And that's a big thing. This is Pacheco's room now. And I think you've seen some of that leadership. This is some of what, if you guys listened to me last week, if you listened to us last week when I rambled about Luis Rees-Zammit for like 15 minutes and didn't get to the point I was trying to make. What I was trying to get to the point of was that stuff where he's learning and he's adapting and downloading all this information that fast, and Pacheco being willing to share all of that information. Because don't take this as a mistake, this, guys. That is not the case in every locker room. There are a lot of dudes in a lot of locker rooms that are far more worried about their own job and their own skin, and they're not willing to teach young guys, and they're not willing to help players. That does not.
Pop doesn't care about that because he'll take a grown man's job.
Correct.
He's not. So, he's comfortable in his own skin like that.
That environment in that locker room, and it starts at the top. It starts with 15 and 87 and all those dudes willing to share. Chris Jones, which we'll get to, I'm sure, because that was pre-show that we were talking about that. That kind of stuff matters, and you've seen this running back room get better at pass protection. That's Clyde, that's Pacheco, that's Deneric Prince. All three of them are better at pass protection than they were 12 months ago. All three of them. So, and that's big.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Clyde. I know that I had some conversations on my timeline the other day with people about Clyde. I still think he probably ultimately makes the team. I think, probably it's a salary thing, and just a similar situation to like Sky Moore, where he knows all the positions, he knows the scheme, he knows all that stuff. You can plug him in without a thought and feel comfortable. When you have a guy like Deneric Prince, who, he's still having kind of the mental lapses. He had it on special teams. Like maybe he's not someone that you're as confident in as a coaching staff, right?
Mental lapses are also another reason Justin Ross is a question mark, because he was still lining up incorrectly at camp in his third season. So,
yeah, I think Clyde definitely makes the team. And as far as Deneric, it's, I feel like he still makes the team, but I can definitely see them only rolling with I can only roll in with 3 running backs, because honestly, like Carson Steele's listed as fullback, but he's a running back. He can definitely run the ball if you want him to. And I think Charles, last time you were on, you kind of mentioned this, the way that you can do like practice squad elevations and stuff too, where you can elevate a guy 2-3 times a game. Like I could easily see them putting Deneric Prince, Keontae Ingram, and Monty Bailey on the practice squad, and then you just, if you need a third running back, you just kind of elevate as you need for whatever situation. And maybe someone gets injured and you elevate him, or you sign him permanently to the roster later on in the season.
But still got Jet McKinnon out there,
and he's just chilling. And so that's the other part, though, with what Garrett just said. With running backs, they almost always somebody gets hurt, almost always, because it's just a position that gets beat up. B, I don't know that any of the 3 guys you just mentioned have done enough to warrant anyone else picking them up.
Yeah.
So they're probably all gonna make, if you did have Deneric need to go to a practice squad because you need to keep an extra offensive lineman, or you need to keep an extra receiver, or you decide to keep 4 tight ends. Irv Smith has played well, although he might be a trade target too. There's room there to maneuver if you have to with the running back spot. I think Carson Steele gave you room to maneuver with his emergence.
I think so. Okay, that should wrap up the offense. We've obviously talked a lot of offense. We've still got some good defense to talk to you there, but so defensive line, I think Kyle has some very, very great thoughts about one particular defensive lineman. So the most, defensive line didn't get a ton of run. Really, there was one guy I think most of Chiefs Kingdom had their eyes on, which was Mr. Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Kyle, I know you studied him basically. You were watching all of his films.
Well, I wanted to. There's been a lot of conversation about the treatment he's gotten this preseason, and a lot of people are like, "Well, they don't know what they have. They're not sure what he is." Well, yes, sorta. I think it's more of, hey, you didn't get any of this last year. You missed all of camp, basically all of the preseason. You then basically played like the first 5 or 6 games, and then got sat till the postseason. So you haven't repped out a bunch of stuff. Let's see how you handle a lot of reps. Now, that said, with those lot of reps, there's a lot of tape to watch.
Wow.
He was good once the ball was snapped and he realized it, and I say it like that for a reason. About half the time, he's not even looking at the ball. He's watching his lineman for the cue on when to move. Legitimately, there were a few snaps where if the lineman hadn't moved, I'm not so sure that Felix still wouldn't be standing in his stance right now.
Right now.
I don't know why. And maybe it's a technique thing. I don't know. But I've never seen or heard it coached to not look at the football to see when it snapped ever. Never ever. Especially, and like, you don't even have to. I'm not telling you to take your whole head and your whole body.
You don't gotta do a D Ford. You don't gotta do a whole D Ford.
You can look at it out of the corner of your eye as long as you have peripheral vision. So I don't know. Maybe that's something they see if he gets contacts for peripheral vision. I don't know, but
he has no
legitimately,
vision.
If
this is
he
something
would
that
get off
that
the snap, he would be a much better player. He beats guys all the time, and they're like, oh, he's in the backfield creating pressure. Yeah. Do you know why he's just creating pressure and not getting a sack or not making a play? Because he started like 3/4 of a second to a full second later than everybody else did. Now, was it better this year than it was last year?
Yes.
By a mile. That's still a concern because it's visibly noticeable still this year.
Look, this is something he's working on. This is something that he's literally told us he is working on, that he's still trying to get better at. And that he worked on a lot this offseason. He needs the reps, man. He just hasn't had them. And he's still really young. He needs the reps. He needs to get in there and work. And I think he'll have more opportunities to do that this year. He's obviously getting a ton of run in the preseason. That's why he played so much. Yeah. Right. And they're going to keep playing in this. Like, you're going to see him get a lot of snaps this next game. You're going to see him probably play the whole. I wouldn't be shocked if he played the whole third preseason game. Chiefs fans are going to be horrified by it. Yeah. But they need that tape because he needs to get in the
reps, the
room.
Conditioning, just everything.
He needs to get in the room with Joe Cullen and like work on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And get those pointers, because right now all he's got is the practice film, and you can't do a whole lot in training camp. Like, even when the pads come on, like, you don't go like full live too much.
Right. Yeah.
So these next two preseason games are just huge for Felix. And honestly, I thought he had some, like, there's one rep where he like split a couple of offensive linemen. I thought it was great. Like,
the flashes are there. I don't want people to take this the wrong way. I'm not telling you he's bad and he's not worth the pick and he's the 38th best defensive end in his draft class, like somebody tweeted at one point. Yeah, I haven't forgotten that one. That was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. He was pretty, I think he was a 1-year starter at K-State, right? Pretty much. He didn't have a ton. If I remember right, he was not super versed at K-State either. Yeah. And then
he's also a really young guy. He's only 21 still, right?
Yeah. Also hasn't been playing the position for very long.
And that was the next thing. So that's where the reason I brought up I've seen a lot of the comments about we don't know what we have in him. I don't think that's the case. I think they're pretty sure what's there. He just hasn't refined it. Well, no, he needs the reps to refine it, as Charles was just talking about. Yeah. He hasn't played enough football. Like, there are certain things that you have to learn by doing. And if you're not firing live bullets, you're not learning. Like, so playing more and more is probably a good thing, not a bad thing. Chiefs fans need to change their mindset on him.
If he has anything over 5 sacks this season, I think you would call it a success.
Holy crap. I would do a jig if he had 5 sacks this season. Are you kidding?
Anything over 5 sacks, five and over, I think you're calling this season a success for him.
Take 3 and some pressures.
Right? And you know, I think he'll probably do some of his best work when you have a guy like Chris on the field when he's
taking, that does help.
When he's taking, you know, some of that pressure away, when he's not getting double teamed, right? And can really only just.
Hey, now listen, another guy on that defensive line we have to talk about. Tershawn Wharton had a really good game. He's going to be your second defensive tackle, and he's going to be a solid contributor, I think, this year.
He's looking good. Joe Cullen said he could play a little bit outside this year too, which is interesting.
I'm so happy.
They haven't really done that with him.
Yeah, he did that a little bit his rookie year, and then injuries and stuff happened, and they kind of had more depth than on
Charles,
the outside.
We attached ourselves to the same thing when Joe Cullen said that in the press conference today, because I was like, he do what now?
That's what we like to see. Tershawn Wharton. Turk is like a really good player. Undrafted free agent a couple years ago, and he's just only gotten better and better as the years have gone on. He overcame a big injury, and now he's coming back. And with these opportunities, with Chris not playing and everything, that all the opportunities on the defensive line, he has been showing up pretty good. I think he was the highest graded Chief, period, in this last game. So
I'll tell you something else. Malik Herring is another guy who's kind of stepped up a little bit this year.
Yeah.
And I think there were some Chiefs fans who were a little bit disappointed that the Chiefs didn't go out and trade for Judon, who just got traded to the Falcons, right? I think there were some people out there who were a little disappointed. I think there's a reason that the Chiefs haven't been more interested in adding to that outside, pass rusher room, because obviously you've got Omeni who's coming back from the ACL.
Yeah,
you've got BJ Thompson, who we just don't know right now what he's dealing with entirely. It hasn't really been stated by the team yet. I think I think the only thing that we kind of really heard recently was Harrison Butker commented on it and said that that he thinks he'll be back in a few weeks, maybe. I mean, that'd be great if they could get him back, because I thought he was a guy who really flashed like earlier in the offseason and could take a big step forward this year. But I think that a guy like Malik Herring and his stepping forward a little bit this year is one of the reasons that, okay, maybe they don't entirely know what they're going to get out of Felix this year, but like knowing that Malik's a guy who can also step into that rotation if need be, I think they feel a little bit more comfortable with that group than maybe the fan base is.
Yeah, I think they're pretty obviously bringing back Mike Dana, and like I said, once Charles Omenihu gets back, that room is going to be so much more bolstered, and Felix I think will keep taking steps forward. I think there's a lot of optimism from the Chiefs in that defensive line room, which is kind of what they've built it on the past few years. But and there's always potential for some young guys like the BJ Thompson, him coming back, and getting in that mix would be good. I still have Neil Farrell, who they traded a 6th-round pick for last year. Like, that's a guy who's not really gotten a lot of talk about, but I feel like they still like him. Pretty heavily.
Look, man, that is a monstrous human. Neil Farrell is gigantic. Also,
I think what happens. I think what's going to happen in the interior is going to be interesting to watch, because right now you really have 3 guys who have kind of a redundant skill set: Derek Nottie,
Mike
Pennell, and Neil Farrell. And I think all of them have, outside of Nottie, who we haven't really seen. I mean, I think Pennell and Farrell have done a really nice job. And, are you going to keep 3 guys who are kind of that like run stuffing, whatnot? And, I think, Mike was on the practice squad last year. I don't think you can do that same thing with him this year. I think he's got to stick on the roster, and probably will.
I would put Derek on the practice squad, but that's me. It's the guy that you've used. He's been hurt more. He's been less, and I like Derek a lot. But he's not. It's the lowest ceiling, and he's the most injured, in my opinion. And I think if you have a vested vet that you can stick on the practice squad because you have some question marks, you just mentioned we haven't seen him at camp. That's the guy that I would shift there. I would also send Matt Dickerson anywhere on earth but this roster.
Well, I was going to say, if you don't keep those 3 guys, right? Let's say Thompson, you don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he starts on the NFI, right?
Yeah,
or reserve list, probably.
Yeah.
Omenihu's going to be on the reserve POP. So then all of a sudden you're going to have an extra D-line spot, and like maybe right now, right now, who looks like the guy who's going to get it is probably Dickerson.
Which sucks, because I think Fabian Levitt's better.
Kyle's favorite. If he makes the 53 man, you should get a jersey of him.
I do like Levitt, and I think he's shown flashes, but like Dickerson was showing flashes against guys who were probably going to make the Jaguars team last week, which is
okay. I get all. Matt Dickerson supposedly showed flashes and then was a ghost all of last year every time they called him up.
He is white, so.
He also has done zero of any. Like I watched a lot of Felix, and next to Felix was Matt Dickerson several times. And boy, did I not notice until I had to double check and make sure I knew his roster number on his jersey number. Because, again, maybe on a couple of snaps, there was some flash there, but a lot of that seemed to be generated by the guys around him, not him.
I disagree. I think he had a really good game against the Jaguars. I mean, you heard the coaches mention it too. So I'm thinking that
I don't, and we'll never see it with that dude. He's terrible.
Spags and Colin like him. I mean, Spags and Colin, for whatever crazy reason, it might be another Ben Neiman, Dan Sorensen situation, but they do like him.
So excited about those two.
Look,
they do like him.
I don't think, if the choice is between Noddy and Dickerson, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if they choose one over the other. To be honest with you,
you make a valid point.
I agree there.
I think it'd be disappointing if like Lovett ends up somewhere else. If he doesn't,
it's gonna be.
That's why tough. I would send Matt, because I don't think there's any other team that's claiming Matt Dickerson. Nobody cares. No one but the Chiefs like him.
Maybe he's one of those guys you keep on the veteran spot in the practice squad. Speaking of which, let's move to the safety room. Let's talk about the safety room.
Okay.
So Garrett, I know you got Deion Bush.
I got Deion Bush making it.
You got him on your 53. I don't think he's making it. I think he's going on the practice squad in the veteran spot.
Listen, if we were playing Madden, right? 100% that makes sense to me. In my head, that makes sense. He's not like a game changer for you at safety. He's a reserve guy. He plays special teams, so that's good. Just the thing with Deion Bush, it's like I just feel like you can't. It's just one of those things. Like when a guy's been on your 53 man the past couple years, when he got an interception in the AFC Championship. I mean, it's not like it's not like you can just put his play aside and just automatically pencil him in. But to me, it's like one of the more ultimate signs of disrespect. I feel like if you're on the roster one year and then they put you on the practice squad the next.
He was on the practice squad last year before he ended up on the 53 because of injuries, right?
He gets elevated, interception, the AFC Championship. I mean, it's just
here's my thing,
right?
Here's my thing. You got injuries at the safety position, and you're having a rookie, Jaden Hicks, and a second-year player in Chamari Connor gets snaps at safety ahead of this guy. That right there is the disrespect, right? I mean, and that kind of tells me where his pecking order is on the depth chart and in the minds of the coaching staff when he's playing deep into he's
definitely a special teams guy first. He's not someone you're obviously still playing Connor and Jaden Hicks over him in real snaps on the defense, but we talk about special teams making 5, 6, 7 of the roster spots, and I think that's a guy that just he's earned his keep, and he'll probably beat out some of the more unknowns in just the defensive back room in general. And that's what kind of goes to the ultimate in the bigger conversation, because technically on my 53 man, I have Chamari listed as a safety. He can also play corner though, and they've used him inside, which hasn't been the greatest inside. Hasn't been the most promising move to slot. So I that's why I have him at safety, just because I feel like maybe they decide to kind of use him more in that third role again instead of.
I think what we've seen from, just kind of the way they've been kind of playing around with the cornerback room and the safety group.
Yeah,
they're ultimately, I think, going to settle on Trent McDuffie is going to be the slot.
That's what I've almost pretty much settled on as well. Yeah,
he's a great player.
Dang near said it today because he called Jalen Watson and Josh Williams starters.
Yeah,
which they have been, right? But he also said today that he's looking for someone for that number 2 cornerback spot to step up and take it.
Yeah, there is still. Nazeeh Johnson's still got
I just don't think he's going to get that. I don't think he's going to get that.
Nazeeh's still working on coming off those injuries.
I know exactly. Yeah. You want that to happen, but you're not playing Jalen Watson yet because he's still coming back from the shoulder. He's not 100%. They're not playing him in preseason games, so he's not going to be the one to show you. Josh Williams has had some opportunities, but he just hasn't been able to seize them. Right? Yeah. He had a big opportunity last week, and had a ball that was caught right when he was in position to swat it away. So, and that's kind of been one of his problems. So that's kind of a little backslide. Nazi's been banged up as he's trying to come back from a major knee injury. So he's still working up his confidence from the knee, and he's having to deal with hamstrings and this, that, and the other thing. So all of a sudden, that number 2 cornerback spot, I don't think you're going to get any one guy. And I think you're in a spot where you probably trust all 3 of those guys that we just mentioned to fill in. And it'll be some combination of those guys playing the outside cornerback spot.
Basis, whoever you're playing
right
now. Yeah.
So styles make fights, and those are going to be matchups that they try to.
Then let's consider that. Let's say that those 4 guys, Trent McDuffie, Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, those are your locks, right? Those are your locks.
Yeah.
So let's.
I might have a 5th one. I might have a 5th lock in that.
Let's say those guys are your locks. Who is the next guy up? Is it Kelvin Joseph, who early on was he was running with the starters when Najee and Jalen were out early on in camp. Then he gets hurt himself, and now he's way down the depth chart, right? Yeah. So is it going to be him that reclaims it? Let me go through him here. Is it going to be him? Is it going to be Keith Taylor, who is a guy who played on the practice squad all last year, has come in, made a few decent plays at camp, didn't have a great preseason week 1. It's going to be him? No, I don't think it's going to be him.
Right now.
Is it going to be Nick Jones? Nick Jones, he's been playing some slot. He was a draft pick.
Nick Jones had some good reps. He
had some decent reps. He also got burnt for a touchdown. But let's not.
He did have some good reps though.
But he did have some good reps. There's something there. Maybe that's still a guy that you want to develop. You still want to work with. So maybe it's Nick Jones. Is it Kamal Hayden, who has disappeared, has been playing with the 3rd and 4th string and hasn't gotten any sort of opportunities with all the injuries and stuff the Chiefs have had during the preseason? I don't think it's going to be Kamal Hayden.
I forgot so much about Kamal Hayden. I didn't even put him in my cut list on my
right.
I just remembered him right now that he even exists. That's crazy.
Right.
I almost said something about that earlier. But
is it going to be Miles Battle, who's a highly touted UDFA out of Utah, who had some good plays in the with the 3rd and 4th team, second half of last Saturday's game. I don't think any of these guys have claimed the spot yet. I think they could, but I think you're looking for who's your best outside cornerback, right? Because I think you have options in the slot. I think you're comfortable with McDuffie. I think you're comfortable to an extent with Connor, even if he's still kind of working through some things there. And I think that Najee has also played some slot.
Yeah,
and probably
you're right.
Can probably fill in there as he comes back a little bit further from his injury. But so I think if that's the case, right? Maybe you keep it 5 cornerbacks, right? You find that next guy, whoever it may be. Garrett, you say you think you have another lock. Who do you think it is?
Well, I was going to my other lock, my 5th lock in the cornerback room is Nick Jones, like I was kind of alluding to. I think he's done enough to
Nick
Jones
kind of warrant it. He's played some slot too, so maybe it is Nick Jones.
Yeah,
he gives you that versatility.
They've used his versatility a lot in different places, and I think special teams he can still contribute. I think he's a guy.
Boydo, he's another option. He was on the team last year.
He made the 53-man last year. Yeah, I mean he had snaps last year as well. That's right.
So,
special teams and versatility, and this is the same conversation when it comes to the D line as it is with the corners. Part of the reason I would take Levitt over Dickerson, versatility. I still think you can play Fabian Levitt inside or outside, depending on what you ask him to do and when you ask him to do it.
Versatility is huge in this league.
With this cornerback group, your number 1 corner at all 3 positions is Trent McDuffie. Period. Point blank. End of story. The question is, just like it was last year, is it going to be Josh Williams or Jalen Watson for that 2nd spot right now, based on whichever receiver they see as that person? Because they styles made fight matchup across the board last year with them. Josh Williams got all the big giant dudes, and Jalen Watson got the next guy that wasn't anybody that wasn't giant trees. He wasn't guarding Keenan Allen. That was Josh Williams' problem. That. So from that perspective, that's one thing. Shamari's problem in the slot is he doesn't move laterally as well as some of
just
the
not
other
quick
guys
enough,
do.
unfortunately. And and he can get some good work in the slot as far as like blitzing and short underneath stuff and kind of using him almost like a box
working
defender
against a
more
tight
than a
end,
slot.
you know?
Yeah,
yeah.
The
Big
biggest
slot
problem,
receiver, you know?
the saddest thing right now is the Haddon development of him just not developing at all from what we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of names. There's so many names. It is tough to kind of
but
carve
that's
out
a guy that they spent a draft pick on, and a guy that yes. But what is Brett made?
Remember, he's also coming back from an injury too, so maybe they have like a plan for his development, and maybe
and
they
I
just
hope
don't
they do.
Maybe they don't want to show what he can do with the first or second team because they're trying to get him on the practice squad. Who knows?
Hard. It's just hard though when you have that question mark at that 5th cornerback spot. Like you just went through the whole list, and the whole time you're like,
well, there's one more name on that list.
Well, let me get to my guy.
Charles.
Christian Roland Wallace, ladies and gentlemen.
You have him playing corner.
I have him playing wherever the heck he wants to play. He played safety and slot last game, and he did a dang fine job. All right, and he's been good at training camp too. He had a pick 6 one of the days I was at practice. Like he's been working his way up. Right, this is a guy who was working with like the 3rd and 4th string, and now is suddenly inching his way into working with the second team. He worked with the second team all week at practice this week.
Yeah. Garrett, you're not all over this. I'm
undrafted
stunned.
free agent. Charles, remind me, where was he an undrafted free agent from? What college did he go to?
I'm surprised you didn't have him locked in as your number 1.
What college did you go to, Charles?
USC.
Damn right he did. Damn right he did.
Was that are you a USC?
Oh God!
Yes.
Which is hilarious because they had trouble in coverage last year.
He played corner. He played corner at USC, right? I don't think that's probably his best role, but I think he could play corner if you needed him to. He's shown that he is fast.
He's a really good athlete. Yeah.
Go and look
also
at
5'11".
the tackle he made. Gosh, I'm trying to remember who it was against, but he made a tackle in this last game. I know I tweeted out a clip of it where he was all the way on the opposite hash mark of this play.
Yeah,
and they threw like a screen pass. I don't know if it's to a running back, receiver, whatever, but like that play was going to go like it was either Christian Roland Wallace chases this play down, or it's getting to the last line of defense, who is the like deep safety, right? Like it could have been a 20-yard gain. He made sure it was like an 11-yard gain. And he came all the way from the opposite side of the field, outran every single other person on the team, even the guys who were like 5 yards closer to this guy. He outran them to go and make this tackle. Those are the types of plays, ladies and gentlemen, that the coaching staff is looking for. Like, I guarantee you that Dave Merritt put that play up in the meeting room and was like, all of you need to be more like Christian Roland Wallace on this play.
I can't see the number on the back of the jersey. I'm looking at the clip. You did tweet it. I just can't see the running back's number. No, not his number. The guy.
I don't know.
It looks like 0.
I can't tell. That number is awful. It looks like a C.
Looks like a backwards 3.
What is that?
Beats me. I don't think it matters who it was.
It's a 2. It's a 2, Garrett. It's just a horrible font.
So it's Dearness Johnston.
Oh.
Okay.
There you go. Feel-good story from Cleveland that KC Sports Network interviewed a bunch at the Shrine Bowl or Senior Bowl a few years ago.
Yeah, so decent player, good player with NFL level production already, right?
Yeah, that was a sick angle. Yeah.
That was a great angle.
Those are the types of plays from undrafted rookies that you're looking at and you're like, wait a second, that's a guy who could be a player in the NFL. So
no kidding.
Look, he's a guy who can play dime backer. He can play nickel. He can play deep safety. He can play box safety role. And he can play special teams. So that's like 5 different roles that this guy can play for your team. I think that's a guy who's making it.
Charles, you might have told me on him. You might have told me on Charles.
I think that is a guy who's making it. I think it'd be a surprise because undrafted free agents don't typically make Super Bowl rosters, but like when you have a situation where like you have a cornerback room where you don't have a lot of guys who are stepping up and who are making it like abundantly clear they're the guy, then maybe you go 5-5 and you take an extra guy who can play slot, and you go with that outside corner as your fifth cornerback. So I don't know. I think that the DB room, it's going to be really interesting. There's a lot of different ways it can play out.
So many ways. Yeah.
It's that's one of the most exciting. I think on Saturday, like I'm going to try to pay as much attention as I can to the cornerbacks and
yeah.
safeties.
These last two games are going to be real good indicators of what they kind of have in those positions. Yeah.
And speaking of which, Jaden Hicks, is that where you're getting to, Kyle?
Yep.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, man.
Yeah, we have to
get ready to tie this together, because you mentioned that when you talked about Jaden, you were like, they've got him trying to do this, that, and the other thing. The reason that they have him trying to do this, that, and the other thing is because Dave Merritt has already made it blatantly clear that's Mike Edwards' replacement. And he basically said that in the press conference today.
Not only Mike Edwards, that's Justin Reed's replacement one day. Probably.
Yeah. That dude can play everywhere on the defense.
Steal the drive.
You might be able to line him up at edge if you wanted to for a few.
I mean, he's an insane player. Like, he's actually
I wouldn't, but you might be able to.
I will say that the one area he needs work on, and this was clear even on the play that I was just talking about with Christian Roland Wallace, stack and shed. If he's still not quite there in terms of like NFL strength level, where he's going to be like taking on blockers and shedding them consistently. I think he can if he gets like a good jump on him. But if he's caught out of position, or if the blockers are the ones that are engaging and he's not setting the terms, it can be a little problematic. He can get eaten up.
Yeah, gotta get some heavier hands. But
I think where he's going to eliminate a lot of those issues is, you just mentioned it, he doesn't get out of position very often. He doesn't get beat to a spot very often. He's not the one not initiating very often. Like, it's rare.
Boy, is he a sure tackler too. I mean, I had no doubt about it. As soon as I watched his college film, I knew he would fit in perfectly on this Chiefs defense with all the other like tackling machines that we have at corner and safety. But like, it reassured it for sure this game. Like, he had some really impressive plays. Like,
look, I thought when they drafted him that it was a mistake, not like a mistake that they chose him. Like,
might be like a clerical error.
He's not available. Like, you can't draft him.
Jaden Hicks, right? There's two Jaden Hicks safeties. Yeah.
Well, he was the number one safety on just about every respected draft analyst.
Dane Brugler had him at number one.
The beast, he was the best safety. He was the best safety I watched in college, and I watched several of those dudes.
He was the best safety I would have put into Stag's defense.
It's kind of a polarizing safety class, and I thought that played right into the Chiefs' hands with the ability to get Hicks this late, but
everything plays into the Chiefs' hands.
He checks every box. That kid checks every single Steve Spagnuolo box you can ask for. They can play him. They can play him.
He's already an ace on special teams too. He's playing every unit.
That one
Dave
punt tackle he had. Oh my goodness! Like, full speed, he just clips the guy, and it's just it was over. Like, there's no more. There's no more. Yeah,
that was a beautiful thing.
He's legitimately a guy that if you needed help in the linebacker room, you could slide him down in the linebacker spot for a little while, and he could help.
Well, the interesting thing too on the play I just mentioned, he was actually lined up as PP, the personal protector on the punt play. So it's like, that's a good indicator. They usually put like fullbacks and like other bigger guys in that spot, and they're pretty.
That's a Carson Steele role that I think.
Yeah, and they're pretty happy with Jaden Hicks in that role as well. So Jaden Hicks, he is going to play really good football for a long time in this league, I think.
Yeah,
and I'm very excited to see him play in the Chiefs jersey.
And they're going to get to do it for cheap for like 4 years.
He's the type of guy who I think is just a ball player. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if
ball player. Yeah,
I would not be shocked if at some point Andy Reid got crazy and like thought up a play where they put him on offense and have him catch a touchdown pass.
I mean,
backfield lined up at fullback or something, just something weird.
I gotta pull it up because his athletic this dude. I don't.
Yeah, we talked about. I think on the last episode, Kyle, we talked about giving people a Tyrann Mathieu light title. I think Shamari Connor was kind of getting that a little bit, which, I don't know. But Jaden Hicks, listen, Maybe Tyrann Mathieu light, maybe Honey Badger light. We don't know.
That's a lot of. I don't.
Yeah,
like
this is the
putting
guy
that on
I
guys.
feel pretty confident in telling that too.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident in that.
Here's his. He had an 897 RAS score. Okay, he runs a 4.5 40. He 6 foot and a 7th, 211 pounds, 16 reps on the bench.
Gotta be bigger than that, right? He's got to be bigger than that now.
He's bigger than that. There's no chance.
He's got to be at least over 220, right? I mean,
he had a not elite but decent 10-yard split. It isn't as good as I would want, but decent. 158, 20-yard splits of 265. So he gets a little. Technically, I think he gets a little faster as he gets going, which makes sense for a guy that big.
They haven't listened at 6'1", 215. I still don't believe it.
He had a 37.5-inch vertical, 10 foot broad jump basically, and a 688 3-cone at his size is crazy. Now, his shuttle wasn't great. It was a 4.37. That's the only thing that brought his RAS score really down, was that shuttle drill. And that's fine, because I really don't think they're going to be asking him to do all that much with that stuff. Look,
Jaden Hicks is going to be a ball player. That's
oh yeah, and he's got 32-inch arms, and his hands are 9 3/4 inches. Like, he's a big dude, but he doesn't he doesn't look and move like a big dude. He looks like an athlete, and he's
crazy quick. Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what kind of run they give him. Especially, I'm guessing they probably won't rest Justin Reed back too hard, so he'll probably get some more love these next two preseason games. So with that, I think we basically covered everything we need to cover tonight. We've got an hour and 20 minutes here, which is, there's a lot to talk about. Our guy Charles is on. We came back from camp. We got to get
so many things.
It was a good time. And Charles, we could talk to you probably for another hour, and we still probably wouldn't be done.
I know we could. We'll probably talk for like another 40 minutes after we finish the show.
Yeah. There's just so much to talk about. So, but I think for these purposes, we
didn't even mention Luis Rees-Zammit and whether or not he's going to be the IR injury guy after he plays in these next 2 preseason games.
That is a good question, because you could.
Oh, he's playing in these next 2 preseason games. It's just is that back gonna get a little tight right around the end of the 3rd preseason game or not?
Yeah. But do you even risk that? The kickoff is only a one and done thing this year. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We'll see. These next 2 preseason games will be very fun to watch. All these other guys see who potentially vies for a roster spot and who kind of fizzles out. But with that being said, that's all we've got for you tonight. Charles, thank you so much once again for coming on. We'll definitely have you on more often this season, just because it's just endless knowledge and insight from you. So, real quick before we let you go here, where can everybody find you, your content, and all the other good stuff over at AtoZ Sports?
Yeah, at Gold MCT. Right. MC at Gold MCT NFL. Is that my
yes,
at?
Charles. Yeah.
At
yes,
Gold
sir.
MCT NFL. On X, formerly Twitter. Formerly Twitter. Always Twitter for me. But
always Twitter.
And you can find my Chiefs content over at AtoZsports.com. Check out our team page for the Kansas City Chiefs.
A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, they got a good team of writers over there covering the Chiefs and everybody, really. The AtoZ has been really expanded to the whole division, but the Chiefs specific have some really good guys led by Charles. Charles.
We're putting together a great team for this upcoming season for the NFL and some other football content that you guys should be on the lookout for.
Nice.
Hint, hint, tease.
Are you a professional, sir? That was a teaser.
He's like he's done this before. Yeah. Yeah. So definitely check out Charles. One of the best follows it was for all of training camp. It's going to be throughout the whole season. Definitely got to follow him.
And he's not picking on Ian Book. If you want to get mad at somebody picking on Ian Book, come yell at me.
Not picking on Ian Book. I'm not picking on Justin Ross. I love everyone. I hope they all do well and have great lives and livelihoods.
Yeah. So with that being said, that will conclude this episode of The Kingdom Says. Be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. We'll be back next week for more preseason reactions and all other good stuff that comes with the NFL season, because we are very close. We are very, very close to real football finally happening. So it's a good time going for the three-peat this year. Chiefs Kingdom, let's do it. Thank you all for tuning in.
The YouTube channel, please, so we can give you guys more content.
sub to the YouTube. That's a great platform for us. And yeah, we will see you guys next week on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.